Hello and welcome to another special episode of Palace Confidential, which will be on every day this week as the world comes to terms with the death of the Queen. We have a very special montage of Her Majesty with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren at the end of the programme, so do stick around for that. But before then, let's introduce my panel today. Joining me in the studio is the Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, Charlotte Griffiths, the Daily Mail's editor-at-large, Richard Kay, and as always, the Daily Mail's diary editor, Richard Eden. Welcome to all three of you. Good to see you. Richard Kay, I'm going to start with you. Charles, back in action today. Services in Westminster this morning, and then he's off to Scotland this afternoon. Now, I know we've been saying for a long time he's been preparing for this role for his life, but this is really hitting the ground running.
It's a man in a hurry.
Yeah.
I mean, is it all partly because he knows his is going to be a short reign, so let's get all the protocol, everything that needs to be done out as fast as possible? Partly it's that.
That's cold.
No, it's partly that.
Yeah.
But it's also because he has been preparing for this role for so many years. And one of the things we learned about today was that he'd been preparing for his audiences with the Prime Minister, with previous Prime Ministers over the years. So, yeah, he's a man who's well prepared and ready for the task ahead.
It's a horrible thing, isn't it? Because obviously he's been grieving the death of his mother, but he must also be a bit excited about this. It's such a mixed bag of emotions.
It is a very strange sensation. On the one hand, we're all grieving the loss of Her Majesty the Queen, the whole nation, and indeed the Commonwealth. But also, there's an excitement about the fact that we've now got a king on the throne, and what is it all going to mean, and how the changes that are coming down the line.
I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot this week. Richard Eden, the emphasis on Scotland as the start of the morning procession, that's significant, isn't it?
It really does seem appropriate. I met someone for lunch last week before we even knew that the Queen was ill, and he told me that the Queen wanted to die in Scotland. That's what she'd almost hoped that would happen, and she hoped that it would help sort of cement the union. You know, we knew about her intervention in the Scottish independence referendum. She felt very strongly about the union, and she felt that by being there and then her body laying in state at St Giles Cathedral, Edinburgh, it will all help act as a bond, really, that bonds us together in the United Kingdom.
It's fascinating. Charlotte, Princess Anne, not somebody who gets a lot of airtime on Palace Confidential, but she's certainly proven to have a significant role in all of this, hasn't she?
She should get more airtime. I think it sounds like the Queen actually asked for her to be the one that went down on the 6-hour trip from Balmoral to Edinburgh, and so she did that yesterday, and she's also going to go on the plane with the Queen's body back to London. So certainly she was a really key part of the Queen's life. They were immensely close. They both shared a love of horses, and I think Anne was by her side when the final moment came, and was actually staying in Balmoral at the time. And she's fab. I mean, she does so many commitments as well. She does so many meet and greets, and that's why she was in Scotland at the time of the death.
And I think it's fascinating as well. My image of Princess Anne is always one of real stoicism. And those pictures today, where you could just see the grief etched on her face, is fascinating.
She cuts it so deeply, which was such a lovely thing, and it was nice that Sophie comforted her. It's nice when you see that somebody that stoic actually showed a little chink of emotion. It shows that she really must be feeling very deeply the loss. Now,
I've been trying to politely wait an amount of time to discuss this, but the elephant in the room is this great surprise for royal watchers was on Saturday when the Cambridges and the Sussexes, the previous Fab Four, appeared together to greet well-wishers, to sort of and see the tributes to the Queen. Richard Kay, let's turn to the piece that you have written today in today's paper. It's fascinating. You write that if it was William who initiated this and not Charles, as was previously reported.
No, it was definitely not Charles. It was William's idea. Charles is a man who's got so much on his plate at this time, and the last thing he needs is a confrontation with his younger son yet again. But it was William's idea, and William reached out to Harry. Whether it was provoked by any other intelligence, we simply don't know. But the fact is, it was a generous and rather spontaneous gesture. And could this be the start of something big? Could this be the start of, a reconciliation? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, they weren't overtly friendly with one another, but then the occasion hardly demanded it. I think Harry looked much more nervous than his brother at times, but the fact is the four of them were together side by side for a moment, and the crowd were delighted.
What on earth do you think would have been in that text exchange?
I think it was fairly brief. I think they'd probably been speaking, but it was on the lines of "let's do it," from what I hear. And simply sending details of the times and that they were going to swing by and get down there together.
Of course, we're waiting now with bated breath to see if Harry's supposed tell-all book goes ahead, and I think that's going to be the real line in the sand, whether or not there's a proper reconciliation, isn't it?
Everything hinges on that. I mean, the big issue around the whole relationship between Harry and the royals, but particularly between Harry and his brother, is this matter of trust. Can they trust him? Do they trust him anymore? I think trust has been in very short supply because of what's happened over the last 2 years, and the book could absolutely blow up whatever green shoots are pushing through if he goes ahead with it. The difficulty for Harry is, I mean, how committed is he to the book? What kind of contract has he got? Could he get out of it? All these questions, we simply don't know the answers yet.
Gosh. Richard Eden, the effect of this get-together, though, had a slightly unfortunate effect for the King media-wise, didn't it?
It really did. I mean, remember on Saturday we had the proclamation of Prince Charles as King Charles III, and it was an amazing ceremony at St James's Palace, something we've never seen televised in the whole of British history. And there was all the colour, the heraldry, but that was pushed off the front pages when William invited his brother to join him and this reunion. And from what I hear, it hasn't gone down that well, because it's meant that this historic moment has not been recorded in the way that Prince Charles and his allies would expect. Do
you think that William and Harry foresaw that consequence? And this is presumably, Charlotte, this is going to be something that the King struggles with, sort of like this sharing the limelight with the glamorous Prince sons.
Yeah, it could keep happening. I have to say, at the Mail on Sunday on Saturday, it was, literally, I'm afraid we took Prince Charles off the front page, and this could keep happening. But there is one thing, it could be a stroke of genius, because now we've seen the first Fab Four image for a long time. It might dampen the effect on the funeral day. So maybe they had the foresight to realise, let's not overshadow the Queen's actual funeral day next Monday. So we've seen that image, at least once now. That's giving them the benefit of the doubt, that maybe they foresaw that.
I think there's something in that, and it reminds me of what happened during the Platinum Jubilee only, 3 or 4 months ago, and the entire week was dominated by speculation about Harry and Meghan, to the exclusion almost of everything else, and so they won't want a repeat of that again.
So in a way, Charles took one for the team. He missed his big moment wasn't on the front page, but
I have to say it is something he has come used to over his long years as Prince of Wales, first with his ex-wife, upstaging him on so many occasions, and in recent years, his children.
And
so
he's very sensitive about it, isn't he? It does actually matter to him.
It matters to him because he felt, as the heir to the throne and now as the king, the limelight should shine on him.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because when at the time of his life, when he was a small boy, being told one day this will be yours, it was such a different world. So he's had to have a bit of a mindset adjustment.
Celebrity culture is very, very recent, really.
But Richard Kay, do you think, you were saying at the end of your piece that Charles's views to the princess was, look, just for goodness sake, sort this out?
It very much so. I mean, William is now Prince of Wales. He's the heir to the throne. He has got to take some responsibility. Don't forget that in all the negotiations that went on with Harry over the previous 2 years, they were predominantly led by Prince Charles as Prince of Wales. Now William's in that position. It's up to William, and because he has a unique interest, because it's his brother, he surely should be the one to take responsibility.
So you think Charles will just extricate himself from the whole possibility of sorting it out?
I think he will. I mean, Charles did not have such a bad relationship, as we understand it, with Meghan, as perhaps has been suggested that William and Kate do. So Charles has there is an incentive, if you like, for William to try and resolve this. I mean, there's no guarantee it will be resolved.
I can't remember. Was there anything like this kind of sibling distress between Charles, Andrew, Edward and Eva?
Well, Charles and Andrew don't get on like a house on fire,
right.
Let's face it.
Well, not recently. Yeah.
No, but even a while ago, I think Charles was instrumental in removing the security detail from Prince Andrew, or from his daughters, rather. Yeah. So there's been tensions between them, but nothing like this scale, I'd say.
It's just more exciting than Dallas.
I do remember once Charles made a very pertinent observation about his brother. He said the trouble with Andrew is that he wants to be me, And that sort of goes to the heart of it. Andrew, don't forget, was for many years the heir in line after Charles. And then when Charles got married and had children, and he got pushed further and further down the line of succession.
And same with Harry. Harry's actually said, hasn't he, the problem is now that my brother's got children, I've been pushed down. He's actually sort of mentioned that himself.
Oh, it must be so hard to be the spare. Richard, Eden, I don't suspect you have an optimistic view of the hopes for reconciliation.
I think William's gesture was magnanimous and it was very kind, but I'm afraid I fear it was a mistake. Because when they've made kind gestures before towards Harry and Meghan, they've been thrown back in their face. I mean, look at how Duchess of Cambridge, as she then was, went round after there'd been a row over these flower girls at the wedding with Meghan. She took some flowers, and then that was held against her. That was publicly used against her in the Oprah interview. You know, oh, she apologised to me and all that sort of thing. So it backfires. You know, we've seen the Queen and Prince Charles in his address sort of downgrading Harry and Meghan, you know, they're just people overseas kind of thing. But what we saw with William's gesture is it's elevated them, it's made them central again now, you know, next to William and Catherine. And it's really wonderful for them. I'm sure they'll be able to exploit it a lot in the future. But I do fear it's a mistake.
Oh, that's so cynical. Exploiting it for the future. What do you think, Charlotte? Do you think that they will reconcile?
Do I think they'll reconcile? Not really, to be honest. I want to be an optimist, but I thought it was so tense, their get-together. They couldn't bring themselves to do a smile in each other's direction or anything. And there's always been this thing about William and Harry. They've been united in the fact that they have a unique situation where it's really hard to trust people around them. William's curated a group of a very small group of people he trusts, and one of them was Harry, and now he can't trust Harry. And the irony is, Harry's such a distrusting person and can't bear details about his private life coming out, and yet here he is releasing this book. So I think until that book gets, you know, put in the bin, I don't think there'll be a reconciliation.
OK, so if the book does go ahead, what are we thinking? Christmas release?
Oh, before then. I mean,
Right.
it's next month or November. The manuscript is with the publishers, from what I understand, and I don't think, as Richard suggests, I'm not even sure that Prince Harry has the power to stop it.
Well, quite. The publishers will have their say, won't they?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for today on Palace Confidential. Huge thanks to Charlotte Griffiths, Richard Kay, Richard Eden, and to you, of course, for watching. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for another special episode. And as promised, we will leave you with a gallery of the late Queen in her role as grandmother and great-grandmother. Bye-bye.